Back in the late 80s, Wayne Static and Billy Corgan were in a band together called Deep Blue Dream. Billy Corgan left to focus on his other band, the Smashing Pumpkins, which would blow up years later and saw major mainstream success throughout the 90s. Deep Blue Dream would soon after this band. In 1994, while Smashing Pumpkins were at the top of the world, former members of Deep Blue Dream, Wayne Static and Ken Jay, created a new band called Drill. They would recruit Tony Campos to be the bassist of the band and later would get Koichi Fukada to join. He had just moved to the United States and Drill asked him to join the band. When Drill would perform live shows in the mid-90s, almost nobody would show up. Koichi would leave the band but would be convinced to rejoin 6 months later. They changed their name to Static and in 1997 would release their demo. The band was starting to make a small buzz in the underground, and the young metalheads around the area had ordered their demo and got the cassette tapes in the mail. The band would add an X at the end of their name, and a year later the band would sign to Warner Brothers and would re-record the songs in their demo and would release their debut album a year later in 1999. It consisted of songs that were in their 97 demo as well as new songs. The first song of the album is Push It, their most successful song. The second song on the album is I'm With Stupid, another gnarly song with a music video. And after I'm With Stupid came Bled for Days, another gnarly song, but without a music video. The first 3 songs are the best on the album, which is typical, but the rest of the album isn't bad. In fact, I think it's solid. I have mixed opinions about Love Dump. The 5th song on the album, I Am, is the best after the first 3. Stem is supposed to be a trippy song to listen to when you're high, but I don't think it's very good. And the last song on the album, December, is just 6 minutes of filler bullshit. There's absolutely no point to this song. I guess the band just wanted to stretch out the record's playtime. Only a month after the band had released their debut album, they would sell out their first show and would sell over 35,000 copies of their album within the first week. The album would soon go gold after selling over 500,000 copies. A certified gold album and sold out shows was a far cry from where they were a few years prior when only a handful of people would show up to hear them play. For the next 2 years, they would work on their sophomore album, Machine. Reportedly, there was tension between the band members when Wayne Static argued that the royalties for the album shouldn't be split evenly, as Wayne Static wrote most of the album while the other 3 members were partying. Koichi Fukada would again temporarily leave the band because of this, but that's not really news since he's been in and out of the band ever since he joined. He did make contributions to the band's music while he was away though. Machine came out on May 22nd, 2001. The intro is just an audience applauding. The album actually begins with the second song, Get to the Gun, one of the many radical songs on the project. This album is better throughout than Wisconsin Death Trip. The sound of this album had many fans calling the band's music evil disco. It's great music to dance to. All of the songs on the album are rad in my opinion with the exception of 2. Cold, which was the most popular song on the album, and the last song on Machine, Adios Alma Perdida. That song is more filler BS that I don't like sitting through. Machine would match the success of Wisconsin Death Trip, going gold after selling over 500,000 copies. It's black and white. This is not my life. This is not my home. This is not me. I hate this. A year later, Static X would be featured on one of Mike Shinoda's shitty rap songs. That same year, Wayne Static was asked by Korn's lead singer Jonathan Davis to provide vocals for the song Not Meant For Me, which was part of the Queen of the Damned soundtrack, which Wayne Static happily took part in. Static X started working on their third album. Warner Brothers was pressuring the band to pursue a melodic sound for their upcoming album. On October 7th, 2003, Static X released what is possibly their best album, Shadow Zone. This was the third straight album to feature a song where the title has Ostego in it. Songs like Dead World, I don't really understand what the chorus means. I don't really understand what most of their music means, but it sure is gnarly. The lead single on the album, titled The Only, was just as popular as Push It. The last song on the album is This Time It's Not an Obvious filler track. There was a bonus DVD that came out with the album called Exposed. Oddly enough, the DVD includes songs from both their first album and their third album, but not their second album. Although this is the band's best project, the transition from the band's style proved to come at a major cost. A lot of fans of the original Static X stopped caring. In 2005, Static X would release their fourth album, Start a War. Start a War was another gnarly album on par with their first three. There was another song about Ostego, and the last song, Brain Fog, was again the weakest, but it wasn't bad. The beginning of the song is gnarly. The song is pretty decent. It was an instrumental. The lead singles were Dirt House and I'm the One. But Skinny Man turned out to be the most popular song on the album. Unfortunately, the switch in style from the previous album had took a toll on the band's success. With no minor hits whatsoever, Start a War was a flop. The band had fell off after being slightly relevant in the mainstream for 3 consecutive records. In 2007, the band would release their next album, Cannibal. It's more of the same good shit they've been putting out their whole career. But this album flopped again. It's a shame since the band was showing no signs of being washed up or running out of ideas. Now you wonder why you're called the Destroyer, Stereo. Oh, you'll do it again, you'll do it again, Destroyer. Oh, you'll do it again, you'll do it again, Destroyer. Freak out, get on, again the fun. Tomorrow, you're gone, and live on the limit. Freak out, get on. They would release one more album in 2009 titled Cult of Static and would go on a hiatus. Cult of Static was a decent album, but not quite as good as their previous work. During this hiatus, Wayne Static would release his solo project, Pig Hammer. It was a solid industrial metal album. The sound is what you would expect from a Static X project. 3 years later, Wayne Static took an oxy and drank alcohol before going to bed, and he passed away in his sleep. On November 1st, 2014, we lost one of the most innovative musicians in metal. Following the tragic death of Wayne, the original members of Static X decided to bring the band back to life. They got the lead singer of Dope to replace Wayne. They would release Project Regeneration Volume 1, which is surprisingly good. When I heard the album, I thought, holy shit, this new singer sounds just like Wayne Static. The vocals mostly consist of Wayne Static's last recordings, and a couple of recordings of him singing that the band discovered after his death. Since the addition of the new singer, whenever Static X performs, the new lead singer, who goes by Zero, wears a mask that slightly resembles Wayne Static, and his hair does too. That's one of the coolest things about the band, Wayne's hair. Adding a new lead singer that was supposed to mimic Wayne Static has been received with mixed reactions. Some people are saying that it's disrespectful to the king of evil disco, Wayne Static. But Static X isn't doing this for sales. They're doing it to honor their late singer and friend. So instead of complaining about this new change of singer, I suggest we accommodate the band for keeping the legend of Wayne Static alive.